How's the, oops.
All right. Oh, we have a full house. Hello, Mr. Russell in the back there. A salute to you as well. So great to see all of you, and I'm going to call this meeting to order at 7:33 p.m., our regular meeting of the 77th Monrovia City Council, this Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. So we are going to start off with our invocation. I'm just going to call you Chaplain Steve. Is that safe enough? And that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by our Pro Tem Dr. Tamala Kelly.
All right, thank you. Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name's Steve. I'm one of the chaplains here with the police and one of the pastors in town. So would you join me as we pray for our evening? God, thank you so much for a chance to be here. Thank you for all the things that will come, the business that will be discussed, people who will be honored, the future that you will give us glimpses of. And we pray for the leadership, we pray for the citizens, we pray for the businesses, the schools, every aspect that makes up Monrovia. May you bring your protection, may you bring your blessing, and may you bring your guidance. May there be a spirit of unity tonight, as well as a spirit of celebration. We pray all these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise. Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Can we please have roll call?
Council members Belden,
Here.
Jimenez.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Kelly.
Here.
And Mayor Shevlin.
Here. Okay, we are going to, we have a few items that are going to be taken out of order this evening, and one of them is a report by Larry Spicer on an update on the workforce development activities. And Mr. Spicer, I will turn that over to you for your report.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. On Wednesday, April 16th, the Monrovia Unified School Board of Education officially approved Monrovia Community Adult School to serve as a coalition for an American Job Center of California,
All right.
and finalized the creation of the brand-new Monrovia AJCC affiliate. The Los Angeles County Department of Economic Opportunity had previously authorized the AJCC affiliate as part of the East San Gabriel Valley AJCC network. The AJCC is the American Job Center, okay, just an acronym, which then led to the Monrovia Unified School Board approval. It will soon become fully operational, offering vital resources to the community. The Monrovia AJCC affiliate will administer Federal Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act funds, providing critical support to local job seekers and businesses. And unavailable programs include classroom training funds, which is helping individuals earn licenses and certification and secure employment, work experience funds, opportunities specifically tailored for Monrovia youth, incumbent worker training funds, resources to upskill existing employees, custom training programs, which is tailored workforce development solutions. Additionally, funding is available to assist local businesses in recruiting and retaining skilled employees, fostering economic growth in the region. This milestone represents the culmination of more than 5.5 years of dedicated effort. As the council member overseeing workforce development, I don't like that word, because really we work as a team. Because I can't do anything without the authority of the other two council members. But I'm going to say aye this time. Aye. I identified gaps in services provided by the Workforce Development Board and recognized the need, the Foothill Workforce Board, Development Board, and recognized the need for change. With the blessing and support of then Mayor Tom Adams and the City Council, I initiated the challenging process to secure a local area move, transitioning Monrovia from the Foothill Workforce Development Board to the Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board. This arduous effort required over 2.5 years of collaboration with a committed team and laid the foundation for the AJCC affiliate established at Monrovia Community Adult School. Following the local area move, I continue working with dedicated individuals to bring the AJCC affiliate to fruition. Monrovia Community Adult School, a school we are proud of for its outstanding contribution to education and the community, was a perfect choice for this initiative. The approval of this affiliate further strengthened the school's role as a cornerstone of workforce development in Monrovia. This is truly a momentous day for workforce development in Monrovia. I am deeply grateful to the many individuals and organizations whose contribution made this achievement possible, including former Senator Anthony Portantino, Ms. Maritza Doobie from the Los Angeles County, Ms. Monica Bankin from Supervisor Barger's office, Mr. George Marquez, Chair of the County Workforce Development Board, the Monrovia Unified School District Board of Education, Monrovia City Manager Dylan Feek and city staff, my trusted partner from the Monrovia Community Adult School, Mr. John Russell. Together, we have achieved an important milestone that will benefit Monrovia residents and businesses for years to come. John, would you like to come down, Mr. Russell? Hey, can we give this gentleman a hand? Thank you for all you did, John, and all the help.
Thank you, Councilmember Spicer and Madam Mayor and the City Council member and the staff. And Larry sells himself short. There were times, this was a very long process, and it's the culmination of this process with this affiliate now co-located at our adult school is that many Monrovians are going to be able to get Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act services. They were not getting services. Larry was on the Foothill Workforce Development Policy Board and knew that the residents here and his constituents were not getting the services, and it was his unwavering dedication and feistiness that helped get this done. So many people I know, Becky, I know you've been a huge part of it too, and Dylan, huge part of it. The partnership with the city and the adult school is a really strong one, and we're very proud of that. And this is the culmination of it. But my brother, it would not have happened without you and your dogged determination. So thank you. You bring me up for a few words, but my God, it was you, my friend. It was you.
John. Thank you,
Mr. Russell I know you have to leave right away, so at any rate, I'm glad we could accommodate.
Thank you. I'm sorry to mess up your agenda for this, but
That's okay.
and just a real quick pitch because the most magnificent city manager in Los Angeles County is sitting there. There's not a better one, and we are having a job fair 1 week from today. We had over 450 job seekers come a few months ago. The city helped sponsor it because of the city's undying support for our school and our for local job seekers. And Dylan is always super helpful with parking and the transportation situation and the first well, everybody that applies for 3 jobs gets a free meal from In-N-Out that is sponsored by the city of Monrovia. So please come, apply for a job. We have over 45 employers there from the region, most of them from Monrovia, and very excited. So Tuesday, May 13th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And again, thank you to the city. Thank you for all that you do to help local Monrovians get jobs, work in the city, and and get educated in the city at our adult schools. So thanks again for all that you do.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Well, we'll make sure that information gets in the city manager's update so everyone can see it. Okay, going back, we did not have a closed session this evening, so there's no report out of that. Moving on to presentations and proclamations. I wanted to start one that we didn't do, but we've done many, many, many times before, and that is giving or acknowledging Historic Preservation Month. But I think, and Jim finally said, stop it with the proclamations. I have no place to put them. I'm talking about Jim Wigton from MOPEG. At any rate, but given that this last weekend they had the home tour, and it is Preservation Month, just wanted to acknowledge that May is Preservation Month in California and across the nation. The California Office of Historic Preservation invites all California communities and preservation enthusiasts to make the month of May an opportunity for discovering and rediscovering, honoring, and sharing the unique heritage of our local regions. Visit a historic site, sponsor or attend a cultural event, nominate a historically significant property to the National Register of Historic Places, and more. Historic preservation is about preserving buildings and sites and the stories and traditions connected to those places. Preservation is about telling the full story of who we are. And we also have coming up, this is on May 7th, well, that's tomorrow, correct? Isn't that tomorrow? And we are having the museum is having a grand opening for the Monrovia History through Architecture and the Monrovia Fire Department then and now, and that's from 4 to 7 p.m. And that's this Wednesday. It's a free event. Everyone hopefully will come out and support the beautiful museum. There'll be snacks, beverages, and free ice cream for the kids. And we're all kids at heart, so I don't know how they're going to handle that. And I did want to mention the centerpiece of Monrovia's historic preservation ordinance is the designating of local historic landmarks. As of today, Monrovia has issued 169 historic landmark designations. So I think we can applaud us for that. I just wanted to give a plug that for Historic Preservation Month. So for our formal PR1, though, proclaiming May 2025 is Mental Health Awareness Month. I did have a few words to say before. I'm going to have Dr. Kelly read that proclamation. The theme for Mental Health Awareness Month in 2025 is Turn Awareness into Action. Mental Health America, MHA, is promoting this theme, encouraging individuals to move beyond simply understanding mental health issues and take concrete steps towards positive change. And the emphasis that while awareness is crucial, it is equally important to translate that awareness into meaningful actions that support mental well-being. And as we can all acknowledge that it takes more than a village to address the many faces of mental illness. Tonight, unfortunately, we don't have anyone specific to give this proclamation to, but I also wanted to highlight our city website posting of the postings of support and resources. support resources and services, and specifically highlight the cities and Monrovia Unified School District, the involvement in Care Solace program, which is a concierge service for mental health services and so many other services as well. And our SGV Care Mobile Crisis Program, which to date, and just as a reminder, it launched in February of 2024, and services are provided Monday through Thursday. Unduplicated client intakes is now at 304, total client follow-ups 299, and note that not all clients receive follow-ups, while some clients receive multiple follow-ups, all depending on the situation and appropriateness. So with that, I will have Dr. Kelly read our proclamation in honor of Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and wellness, and whereas all Monrovians experience times of difficulty, stress, anxiety, personal loss, and challenge during their lifetimes, and whereas the stress and worry over the health and safety of family and friends, forced isolation, and financial stress can all result in anxiety, depression, substance misuse and abuse, and tragically, even suicide. And whereas the lack of mental health awareness, resources, and tools leads to devastating impacts on the wellness of individuals and communities. And whereas mental illness can affect anyone and can develop at any time, its effective spreading well beyond the individual to family, friends, and coworkers. And whereas it is up to all of us to know the signs of mental health issues and lend a hand to those who are struggling, to make sure they know that asking for help is not a sign of weakness, it is a sign of strength. And whereas every business, school, government agency, healthcare provider, church organization, and citizen share the burden of addressing our overall community mental health. Now, therefore, I, Becky Shevlin, Mayor of the City of Monrovia, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Mental Health Awareness Month, and encourage the community to fight the stigma surrounding mental illness and empower those affected by emotional distress and their loved ones to seek care. Dated this 6th day of May, 2025.
Thank you, Dr. Kelly. And then on our PR2, proclaiming May 2025 as Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I am going to have Sergio Jimenez. He will be reading the proclamation, but I have a few words for this one as well, as we don't have someone to specifically accept the proclamation. We want to make sure to highlight the importance of and pay tribute to the many contributions of the Asian American and Pacific Islander populations to American history, culture, and society. Their heritage spans thousands of years and shaped the world we live in. In the city, we are going to have a special presentation at our public library. And so this month-long observance officially is recognized by the United States government and honors the achievements and diverse heritages of these communities. And so in celebration on Saturday, May 31st, from noon to 2, we are going to have a free special program, and it will include a special performance of the Aletheia's Hula OIEO dancers, and I hope I did that. I pronounced that kind of okay. The dancers are fantastic. They were here last year and will explain the history and the cultural meaning behind each hula dance. The dancers will perform at noon and crafts will begin at 1 p.m. So come and listen to stories and absorb many beautiful customs in person. No registration is required, and also throughout the month the library will feature book displays throughout the library highlighting Asian American authors and stories. And with that then,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the month of May was chosen as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese citizen, Nakahama Manjiro, to the United States on May 7th, 1843, but also the anniversary of the May 10th, 1869 completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, which was built by the hands of nearly 20,000 Chinese immigrants. And whereas Monrovia's population is more than 17% Asian American and Pacific Islander, otherwise known as AAPI, by 2020 census estimates, and includes devoted community members, artists, business owners, educators, healthcare professionals, lawyers, clergy, first responders, and our military personnel. And whereas we celebrate the achievements and contributions of the Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders that enrich our history, society, and culture, and we must also acknowledge a darker aspect of the AAPI experience in America. Discrimination, prejudice, and injustice, the most recently manifested itself in racist attacks on Asian Americans related to the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas today more than 20 million Asian American Pacific Islanders live in the United States, and through their actions make America a more vibrant, beautiful, prosperous, and secure nation. Now, therefore, I, Becky Shevlin, Mayor of the City of Monrovia, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Asian Pacific American Heritage Month in Monrovia, and encourage all Monrovians to learn more about Asian American and Pacific Islander heritage and to work to combat racism and xenophobia. Dated this 6th day of May 2025.
Thank you very much, Sergio. And since we don't have anyone to present these proclamations to, I'd like to ask, could we have them displayed in the libraries so everyone can see them during the month of May? And possibly you could include them in your weekly update as well. And we'll have to obviously promote to the Alethia's Hula OIEO, hula dancers. Thank you very much. Now, in this third presentation that we have, I was going to read it myself as the eldest. No.
As the eldest.
As the elder of the council, but I'm giving it to Larry, the second oldest.
You didn't have to put me on blast.
Hey. So at any rate, I'm asking Mr. Spicer if he will please present the Older American of the Month, or proclaim the proclamation. And we also have with us Tiffany Peterson, Recreation Supervisor, that will also be making a presentation. So Larry.
Okay. Whereas the City Council of the City of Monrovia continues to recognize the thousands of senior citizens residing within the City of Monrovia. And whereas in doing so, the City Council acknowledges the wealth of experience, education, and wisdom the senior citizens, as it is believed that by proclaiming a special month to highlight the activities and interests the public will be made aware of, the scope of available services to senior citizens in the City of Monrovia. And whereas older Americans are an essential support to their families, friends, and neighbors and peers, we know there is more we must do to ensure that older Americans can live and age with dignity. And whereas during Older American Month, we honor these citizens and we pledge to support their futures. Now, therefore, I, Becky Shevlin, Mayor of the City of Monrovia, along with the entire City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2025 as Older American Month and recognize Sheila Spicer Batiste as the Older American of the Year for the City of Monrovia for her continued service to our community. And further, I urge all residents to honor and thank those older Americans in your lives. Dated the 6th day of May 2025, signed Becky A. Shevlin. And
At
I
this-
rise.
Yeah, and at this time, I'll turn it over to Tiffany, and then we will come down. We'll have Sheila come up, and we'll present her with a proclamation as well.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor Shevlin and council members. This evening, we have the honor of assisting you with recognizing the Older Monrovian of the Year award winner. The 2025 theme for Older American Month is Flip the Script on Aging. This focuses on transforming how society perceives, talks about, and approaches aging. It encourages individuals and communities to challenge stereotypes and dispel misconceptions. This year, we are honoring older adults' contributions, exploring the many opportunities for staying active and engaged as we age, and highlighting the opportunities for purpose, exploration, and connection that come with aging. This year, we had 9 amazing Older Monrovians nominated for this annual award and who have displayed this year's Older American values all year long. We wanted to introduce and celebrate all the great work that our Older Monrovian Award winner, Sheila Spicer Batiste, has done this year. Born and raised right here in Monrovia, Sheila's roots in this community run deep. For over 40 years, she has dedicated herself to serving the city she calls home. Working in a variety of impactful roles, including the Monrovia Area Partnership and Neighborhood and Business Services Division Manager, her work has touched countless lives, and her legacy is one of action, care, and progress. In 2024, Sheila poured herself into her community with incredible energy. She played an active role in Monrovia Changemakers, helping to organize meaningful events that uplift and unite. She also continues to lead with heart as the president of the Monrovia Duarte Black Alumni Association, a role she has held for the past 4 years. Under her leadership, the organization has awarded an outstanding $18,000 in scholarships to local students. But Sheila's leadership doesn't stop there. She also serves as a secretary for both community media of the Foothills and Monrovia Changemakers, helping to ensure that voices are heard, stories are told, and the spirit of the Monrovia continues to shine. Sheila leads by example. She shows up, she lifts others, and she gets the job done with respect, grace, and an unwavering love for her community. Sheila, thank you for your decades of service, for your tireless leadership, and for showing us all what it means to give back with heart. We are excited to congratulate Sheila on being our Older Monrovian Award winner, and would like to share that we will be recognizing her next week on our Monrovia Days Parade, which will be Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. She's also going to be recognized at the end of the year for the holiday parade as well on December 4th. We would also like to thank the City Council on helping us celebrate Sheila's achievements tonight. This is a great honor, and we appreciate you, and thank you everyone for and have a great evening. And Sheila, if I can have you come on up.
Okay, that wraps up our presentations for this evening. We normally would have a student government representative report, but she is not here this evening. Hope all is well. Hope all is well with her, and we'll hear from her at our next meeting. On our order of business, we do have a couple of changes, as earlier Mr. Spicer, we brought forward a little bit early his report. He will finish it later with the rest of us. We did have, we've got some items, and I will move on to the consent calendar, and I'll talk about those. Under our consent calendar, all items on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. and there will be no separate discussion on these items unless something needs to be pulled. And that, in this case, we do need to take off, it is CC 5, correct?
It is not part of the agenda,
Correct.
correct?
CC 5 was not included in the packet and was inadvertently omitted from the agenda. And so that is going to, CC 5 will be rescheduled and put forward for consideration on the May 20th, 25 City Council. And there is a correction on CC 13, the lease agreement with Rico USA, Inc. for 12 multifunction copiers, including maintenance and supplies for the period ending June 30th. It has a minor typographical error. The amount of the lease agreement was stated as $1,589,000. Oh, 1,000, excuse me, 1,589 at 0.58 cents. The correct amount is 1,559.58 per month, for a savings of $6,173.04 annually. And did I cover everything, Alice? Okay, with that, unless there's anything else that anyone needs to bring forward, if we had a motion for CC 1 through CC 14 minus item CC 5, which will come at a future meeting.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we please have a roll call vote?
Council members Belden,
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Kelly.
Yes.
And Mayor Shevlin.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, now we've come to our portion of public input, and we thank you all. We got a full house tonight, and thank you for participating, and we encourage public participation, and we invite you to share your views on city business and your comments. And these are on items that are not on our agenda. And please remember that as they are not, these items are not agendized, we can't have any interaction with you, but we welcome your comments and you can come forward. I understand we have 9 speaker cards at the present time. If you haven't already filled out a card, but you would like to speak, the cards are in the lobby area there, and you can bring them up to the city clerk. But at this time, then, I will go ahead, and I ask that you try to be concise this evening as we have so many people, and be respectful. And with that, we will start. Alice, will give the instructions here for coming up.
So beginning with Sam Uland.
Good evening, Sam.
Members of the City Council, we, the residents of May Avenue, stand before you tonight to address a pressing issue that affects our community, the need for better regulation of for-profit sober living facilities. Some facilities are run with compassion. They provide each resident with their own bedroom in a comfortable environment. These compassionate facilities treat individuals recovering from addiction with human decency, and the individuals respond in kind. This results in minimal negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhood. Individuals living in compassionate facilities often receive community support on their journey of recovery. Unfortunately, there are for-profit facilities that warehouse as many occupants as possible into a structure with substandard living condition. These dark side facilities exploit their occupants for profit and remove their human dignity. Not surprisingly, people denied human dignity act in antisocial ways. This denial of dignity is the root cause of many of the negative neighborhood impacts associated with these facilities. Former occupants often enter the local homeless population as well. Subsequent speakers tonight are public safety professionals. They will provide their firsthand experiences dealing with these dark side facilities. For-profit facilities have already negatively impacted many communities across Southern California, and Monrovia could be next. Nearby cities have adopted sober living ordinances, with Costa Mesa being one of the first. These ordinances have already been affirmed by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We are asking the City Council to adopt an ordinance and not wait until a facility has already exploited its occupants and damaged our community. The risk of inaction is too great. The proposed facility on May Avenue is still under review with the Planning Department. Even if this application is withdrawn, there will inevitably be another. Individuals recovering from addiction are a protected class under state and federal law. In a cruel irony, the for-profit operators try to use these laws to prevent local cities from stopping their exploitation of recovering individuals. They ignore the intent of these laws is to protect those less fortunate. The ordinance we would like to see adopted would be one with similar requirements as those of other California cities and, more importantly, protect the human dignity of facility occupants. In Monrovia, sober living facilities should be required to operate with compassion and provide a private bedroom for each non-related adult occupant in a supportive environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Harry Terrell.
My name is Harry Terrell. Madam Mayor, City Council, staff, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Harry Terrell. I'm a retired police officer from Burbank Police Department. I retired 2 years ago. While I was serving as a police officer with the City of Burbank, I worked as a patrol officer, field training officer. In the last decade of my time there, I was a detective. While I worked there, I had many interactions with residents of sober living facilities. There's several sober living facilities in the City of Burbank. And the purpose of my comments is to provide my perspective of these sober living facilities from a law enforcement point of view. When I was a field training officer, it was standard practice. When I was trained, my training officer pointed out the sober living facilities to us, usually in residential areas, sometimes not. And the reason for that was because of the high volume of calls that inevitably came from those locations. That's just a fact of life for law enforcement. And we had to know where they were because we would be responding there sometimes for urgent, life-threatening matters, as well as just time-consuming calls for service. A lot of these calls for service included batteries, trespassing violations, restraining order violations, vandalism, thefts, drug and alcohol-related offenses, and overdoses, as well as me personally, I've been on several death investigations at these facilities. Now, these calls for service would occur at the location as well as in the surrounding areas and neighborhoods of those locations, and it would turn out that the people involved were residents of those locations. When we had a particularly bad resident in these locations, because they would come and go, the calls for service would increase dramatically for that area, which would require a disproportionate amount of time that the officers and detectives would have to allocate to these locations. I experienced this as a patrol officer and as a detective when I was assigned these cases. A stark, interesting comparison from my time at Burbank, I started my career in the city of San Marino. I was a police officer there for 4 years. And we had 0 calls for service at these locations because there were no sober living facilities in the city of San Marino, period. They just didn't exist, and we did not have that those types of calls for service that would take up the time and resources of the police officers there. And now just for my perspective as a resident, I've been a resident here since 1979. I moved here when I was 7 years old, and pretty much besides going away for college, I've been here ever since. If I were buying a home here, and I wouldn't buy one next door to a sober living facility, I just wouldn't. And when you consider this matter, I would ask you to please just keep in mind how you personally would feel if it was your home, or if it was going up next door to where you lived, and how it would affect you personally. And I would just ask you keep that in mind and consideration as you consider this matter. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Allison Bray.
Good evening. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
I'm here of a resident, I'm here as a resident of a unicorn street called May Avenue. I'm here to address the elephant in the room. Prior to the for-profit sober house even opening, the members of May Avenue have had the following disconcerting experiences with the intended operator, who is not a resident of Monrovia and has never opened such a facility. The intended operator proceeded without giving notice to the city or the residents of May Avenue that they intended to open a sober living facility for up to 9 residents in 1,470 square feet. It was only when unpermitted work was going on that the city became aware. There was a domestic violence incident involving offensive and threatening language with items being thrown and broken. Multiple police units were called to intercede. There have been untold construction permit violations with job shutdowns by code enforcement. There have been menacing verbal assaults by the operator and their agents to May Avenue residents. There have been public social media posts by the intended operator with pejorative name-calling to those who have concerns about their plans. Comments to those posts include veiled threats and malicious language directed at those who are not in lockstep with their plans. Staff from the LA County Childhood Lead Poisoning Prevention Program met with the intended operator on site and provided requirements for sanding lead paint. This is an old house. Unbelievably, the intended operator resumed sanding without mandated safety measures in place the following weekend when, of course, the agency was closed. The intended operator not only acted with impunity for the children on May Avenue, they had total disregard for the well-being of the painters by failing to provide respiratory protection and plastic barriers. To say the intended operator has concern for and is committed to the recovery of addicts that they propose housing on May Avenue is an absurd proposition. They wantonly disregarded the health and the safety of the people living on May Avenue and their own workers by knowingly allowing the residents and their painters to ingest toxic lead paint dust. The chronic, audacious impunity demonstrated by the intended for-profit and inexperienced operator thus far is an ominous preview for what this facility could do to May Avenue. It is therefore respectfully requested that the City Council consider adopting an ordinance similar to those successfully enacted by cities in the LA area and which have survived court challenges. The purpose would be to support the recovery journey of those addicts by mandating, among other things, 1 person per bedroom, as well as delineating standards for care and behavior. I think it is safe to say that the City Council is committed to the continued safety, quality of life, and quiet enjoyment for the families on May Avenue and in Monrovia, and such an ordinance would allow that to happen. Thank you for your time.
Claudia Carson.
Good evening. My name is Claudia Carson, and I live at 264 May Avenue, Monrovia, with my husband and 4 young daughters. When we moved to May, we left a neighborhood that was unsafe, with neighbors that made our family, especially our children, feel uncomfortable. Upon moving to May, you can imagine our pleasant surprise when we were welcomed with a pizza dinner and dessert from 2 of our dear neighbors. Shortly after that, we met several other neighbors who made us feel at home, with the exchange of names, phone numbers, Christmas cards, and Christmas gifts. The warm and friendly vibe made me start referring to our neighborhood as Mayberry. You may know Mayberry is the small town where the Andy Griffith Show was set in the 1940s, where neighbors looked out for each other and could trust one another. That's how I felt. It wasn't long until our young children became so acquainted with Mayberry that they were riding bikes, walking our dog, and walking to Old Town all by themselves. Because we trusted the neighborhood, we felt safe. We knew that there were caring neighbors who recognized them and looked after them when they went by their house. Upon hearing the idea of a sober house on our street, I had two main thoughts. The first is, while we have compassion and empathy for the individuals of the sober community and their well-being, we know that our residential neighborhood does not have the resources required to aid with the full recovery of these individuals. We are not trained to deal with the vices that come from those with an active history of addictions and substance abuse, nor do we feel that the living in this environment without regulations will be in their best interest. My second thought is about the children of May Avenue. There's no way children can be responsible and part of the recovery process and reintegration of adults with recent substance abuse and possible criminal records. So why would we even think of putting our children in this kind of risky setting? We're raising kids on May Avenue, and their well-being cannot be compromised by a sober house. Now, for the first time on May, I fear for my children's safety and the other 45 children who live on our street. That's right, 45. I wonder if by having this sober house, we're inviting trouble into our neighborhood. I'm afraid by allowing a sober house, we're not only being negligent, but now responsible for putting children in potential danger and exposing them to harmful habits. My neighbors and I are speaking to you this evening because we will not welcome a sober house to May Avenue. We will not greet a business that will take the place of the opportunity for residents, maybe a prospective family, to find their Mayberry. Or better than that, the wonderful May Avenue that I've come to know and love. Thank you very much.
Drew DM.
That's right. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, Dylan, fellow neighbors. First, I want to thank you for your leadership and dedication in making Monrovia the remarkable family-oriented community it is, a true gem. My wife and I recently moved here, and we have felt incredibly grateful and welcomed by everyone we've met. While we strongly support genuine recovery efforts, we're also concerned about the potential misoperation of sober living facilities in Monrovia. I gather that those individuals intending to set up a sober living house on May Avenue are here tonight. And I also want to speak to you directly as well, and ask that you please hear what I say with an open mind. I hope you can prove to be a stand-up exemption and help us do this right. I can empathize with the frustration you may be feeling, so I want to clarify, this is not personal. It is a community matter. However, our focus tonight goes far beyond this single instance. It's about addressing a broader critical concept across California. Such homes have sadly become synonymous with overcrowding, unsafe conditions, and financial exploitation of those genuinely seeking help. I've dedicated my life pursuing a doctorate in pharmaceutical science and a career in drug development to improving the human condition, specifically focusing on the discovery of new treatments for mental health conditions. Similarly to the addiction rehab industry, the pharmaceutical industry has benefited a wide diversity of people tremendously. Yet, it has also created nightmarish scenarios such as the opioid epidemic. When profit motives overshadow the human element, situations can quickly become troubling and harmful. We believe Monrovia can lead by example. This is an amazing community, and it can be a place of healing for those in pain. We'd like to ask you to consider implementing ordinances to ensure these facilities maintain humane living conditions, proper oversight, and safe occupancy limits. By taking proactive steps, we protect our neighborhood's safety and character, and, importantly, uphold the dignity and compassion for individuals in recovery. So, please consider the possibilities. Together, let's safeguard our community, protect the vulnerable, and maintain the high standards that make Monrovia exceptional. We can show other towns in California how such a delicate situation can be treated with proper reverence, empathy, and balance. Before I conclude, I sense that many Monrovians deeply care about humane living conditions and proper oversight of sober living facilities. If you feel this way and are in attendance tonight, could you please stand up now? Thank you once again to the city staff for your consideration and your ongoing commitment to our city's well-being.
Donna Baker. Donna.
Hi,
Good
Donna.
evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, Mr. Feek. I'm Donna Baker, and I'm here on behalf of the Monrovia Chamber of Commerce. And before I begin on my presentation, I wanted to tell Mr. Spicer, we look forward to collaborating with you as part of my theme this year in collaboration with the Workforce Development Project that you're going to be working on. You got it? Okay. And another part of my theme was elevate, and I am here to announce that we are elevating the image of our chamber, and we have hired our new, a face you might recognize, Executive Director Corinne Ramirez. I'm happy to introduce her as our new employee. She started yesterday.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Donna. I just wanted to invite the community and businesses in the area that we are having our coffee social on Thursday, May the 15th, from 8:30 to 9:30. It's going to be hosted by Lead the Way Fitness at the Chamber office. We are involved with the multi-chamber mixer Wednesday, May the 21st, from 5 to 7 at the Le Meridien Hotel in Arcadia. There will also be 9 other chambers there along with us. And our networking lunch Thursday, May the 22nd, from 11:30 to 1:30 at Cafe Mondial. You could also find other chamber events at our chamber website, monroviacc.com. I'm glad to be back at the chamber. I feel like I'm back at home. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Corinne.
And just for your information, the mixer, the multi-chamber mixer is $10 ahead of time, $15 at the door. And the networking lunch is our first networking lunch from the chamber this year. We haven't had one in several years. We got rid of the lunch mob. We're doing networking. We invite all the local businesses and all of you to come, and that will be $20 to attend.
Next is Eon Motkin.
Pardon my good belt. Hi, everyone, again, here to give you the updates. Okay, first and foremost, let me say, after hearing everything, let me say this. Unfortunately, because of poor management at our facility at 105, there have been a number of people who have been violating the civil rights of everyone in Monrovia, including tenants, because they were treating our place as a private kind of rehab facility. There was one person in particular, Anita Chen, who we had to have evicted but had come back even repeatedly. She is on God knows how many illegal drugs, and she was, I hate to tell you this, had no money, so she had to be human trafficking, selling her own body to get the drugs. That's what I figured out, because she had no money. She was bouncing all the rent checks. How is that fair to other tenants when unfortunately Linda Gibson, despite many comments, including those by myself and the former maintenance person who was fired by Linda Gibson last August because he saw her doing nothing in her office. And I can personally tell you that she has done nothing, because this is why we're still in a horrible ordeal there at 105 East Olive Avenue, Monrovia, where, listen, I have constantly called Abode specifying all the things that aren't being done. My personal apartment has no kitchen fluorescent lights. I have, one light missing in the bathroom. And remember, these lights have to be ordered and placed specifically by the maintenance person. I don't know how to install them. I'm not tall enough to go up and install them, and nor should I ever have to. I have many medical challenges that, once again, I provided a certificate as provided to me by Linda Gibson stating that I need to be living downstairs. Right now, my legs, my feet have been in pain, and especially recently since I returned from the Long Beach Healthcare Center, which, by the way, I was forced to be in. I call that torture. Forced to be in. You guys are talking about the idea of crowding. Okay, I was in this Long Beach Healthcare Center being made ill. because I was in with 3 other extremely elderly and ill people. And I'm still ill from those contacts. I also ended up catching a full-blown case of COVID for the first time ever. By the way, I had to be on Paxlovid, and that was basically starting on the 20th of June last year. So I became ill what happened is I was seeing my own doctor at Cedars-Sinai, because I don't trust any of the doctors in that facility. They're basically withheld appropriate medications that all of my Cedars-Sinai doctors and other doctors at the Marino Healthcare Center, all Harvard medically trained doctors, who then reached out to them and said, literally like faxing information, and that healthcare center still refused to provide me with the appropriate medicines that I've been using for the past 20 years. So I'm just saying, I feel that healthcare facility should be shut down immediately. Long Beach Healthcare Center, I can give the address, in Long Beach, which is where I was basically detained effectively. Because what happened is I only went there because I had to find someplace, because I had to leave where I was living due to the black mold and other inappropriate, dangerous substances. So did I reach my limits? There we go.
Yes.
Next week, next time.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Karen DeClue.
Good evening, Mayor Sheblin, City Council members, Mr. Feek, members of the community. I'm Karen DeClue, and I'm here tonight to talk in support of bringing aquatics back to Monrovia. Last month, MUSD School Board signed a contract with an architectural design firm to start working on design options for an upgraded aquatic facility for the high school. And that turnaround time was supposed to be 30 to 45 days, and we're currently on day 21. I'm hoping they are considering all the needs of a 21st century aquatic center and not just fixing an old pool, because we are sitting on the precipice of an opportunity for the school district and the city. In fact, I spent last weekend at a tournament in San Diego cheering on my 4th grader Alicia at a water polo tournament. And I ended up chatting with the person working at the concession stands, as you do. And I ended up in a deep conversation with their pool manager about pool renovations. Apparently, this is who I am now, that Karen who corners strangers at children's sporting events into bringing me their manager so we can talk about aquatic facility design. In this very normal circumstance that I'm sure can happen to anybody. We talked about what went well and what didn't when they designed their pool about 8 years ago. She was really glad the pool had been built large enough to host tournaments. This 3-day tournament brought them $4,000 in rental fees and $2,500 she was estimating in concessions. To do that, you need a pool big enough to host multiple games with a warm-up area, public bathrooms, shaded seating. But her one regret, she said her biggest regret that she wishes she could go back on, was that they didn't include a team room for the high school sports team or the local clubs to rent space from them. They ended up installing some of those like prefab sheds after the fact to like store balls and equipment in. But those sheds have limited use, you can't control the temperature, the moisture. You can't keep documents in there. There's no office space or meeting areas. Now, Monrovia's needs, benefits, potential regrets likely will be different. We're a different city. But the feature I would like to see, and I hope we don't miss this opportunity, is the opportunity for city use at that pool. This is going to mean a partnership and a design option that considers the city's needs along with the school district's needs. The lifeguard office we have now is invaluable. Are we going to have that? Are we going to upgrade it? And have we considered public bathrooms, family changing rooms? At some of the pools I visit with my competitive water polo players, there are these cool things called movable bulkheads that are these walkways on a pool that can be moved back and forth, and they go down. The slats go down, so they're actually like kind of separating the water. It can turn a large pool into something that feels like 2 separate pools, really. And that could be especially useful for shared use if the high school water polo team wants to practice and when the city wants to have swimming lessons. It can basically serve 2 functions at once. I know you all have so much more to consider than the information I'm burdened with, or you have more information to be burdened with than mine, and far more information to work with. I'm just here to encourage you to continue to stay involved with this process that is happening at our school district that also can affect Monrovia. I really do believe that working with the district is the most direct path to bringing aquatics back to Monrovia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Yana and Sasha Chesley.
Good evening, girls.
Hi. Good evening, City
Hold on a
Council.
second. Let her. Yeah, there you go.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Alexandra Chesley, and I'm a third grader at Wild Rose School of Creative Arts. First of all, I would love to have a high school pool when I get to high school. I have been going there with my mom since I was 3 years old. Now I swim in the Arcadia High School pool every day with the Arcadia Riptide Swim Club. My favorite stroke is breaststroke, and I'm faster than my sister. When we were swimming at Monrovia High School, I liked how it was really close to my house and that we could roll up the swimming lane lines when we were done swimming. I would love watching the sunset die down while I was swimming, but I really didn't like how the bottom of the pool had pieces of plaster missing. Every time I stood up, they would cut my feet. So can you please build a new pool for our community to swim? Thank you for listening, and I hope you choose to build a new pool in Monrovia High School. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Yana Victoria Chesley, and I am a 5th grader in the Wild Rose Dual Immersion program. I used to swim at the Monrovia High School pool when I was younger. For the past 3 years, I have been swimming for the Arcadia Riptide Swim Club. I am in the age group competition, and I swim 2 hours every day. I love swimming, and my favorite stroke is butterfly. My favorite event is the 500 freestyle. Last winter, I qualified for the Winter Age Group Championship. Just so you know, my sister is not faster than me in breaststroke. When I am in high school, I would really like and appreciate it if I could have a pool because I want to be on the Monrovia High School swim team. But the Monrovia High School pool would also benefit the community since we don't have a pool. You could also have it open to the public during weekends and after school hours. Plus, there could be a Monrovia High School Monrovia swim team for kids younger than high school. I hope that you and the school district can work together to keep Monrovia afloat by having a good pool to swim in. Thank you for listening.
Teresa.
Hey, City Council. I just wanted to thank you for helping to advocate for the facilitation of cleaning the canyons. I went up there and it looked a lot better. So I think that was amazing. And as well, I wanted to apologize for not catching Miss Gardner's name the last time I was here. I believe it was April 1st. Although the canyons are cleaner, the fault is not all on local government. It has to do with the public as well. So when I did go up there, I did see, while I was just like walking around with my dog, I saw a guy just leave a pile of trash like it wasn't like nobody's business. Now, although it's not necessarily Monrovia's issue, just the fact that it was had a big impact on the cleanliness of it. It's more about what I wanted to talk about is just promoting education of keeping that area in particular clean, or just in general, educating the public more. I feel like that's, although we know generally how to keep it clean or how to take care of the canyon, it seems like a lot of people still don't know where the trash can is or how to do so. And leaving bottles and stuff like that, the sun can go through it and create like a magnifying effect and burn the dry grass. So I just think it should be more promoted to keep it clean. And also I plan on going over to Azusa and telling them too, like maybe we need to put up some like flyers or something to keep the canyons clean. But just in general, educating the youngsters, anybody in high school especially. They seem to be the biggest trashers, but I just wanted to say that. Thank you. Have a good one.
And Cassandra Young Puig?
Hello. Good evening, members of the council, and good evening, residents of May Avenue. I'm the problem, it's me. All this,
Please direct your comments to the
all this
council. Thank you.
concern is based around my intents for the house that I have personally renovating to bring up to living standard codes. I did sit down with several members of the Community Development Division on the 24th, went over the aspects of what I was proposing. I've done a lot of research on the requirements for capacity limits. I've done research on what legality transitional housing, supportive housing, sober living housings have, and they are protected under FHA and ADA. But I come to you and I'm doing this out of, I'm not fearful of my anonymity or breaking my anonymity, but I am one in recovery. I've been in recovery for 17 years. We are taught fundamentally to give back what was given to us. And early in my recovery, when I had made the decision to change my life, living at home was not an option because there was alcohol consumption, there was marijuana consumption, and that risked my life every day. Fortunately, I was able to go into a house that was full of people who were in recovery, full of people who were in the program, full of people who supported me and my goals at just maintaining clean time, maintaining 24 hours, getting a job, moving my life forward, getting the life that I was never able to even start. And so that's why I'm doing this, because it's not a matter of capacity, and please don't try to vilify this. There are terrible sober livings, but as somebody who's been in recovery for as long as I have, there are amazing sober livings, and that is what I strive for. I am not trying to jam-pack a bunch of women into a house. It is 3.5, you could almost say 4-bedroom house. You say 1,479 square feet, it's quite large house. And the purpose is 2 women in front room, 3 women in the middle room, and 2 women in the back. And this is specifically for women. This is not for men. This is not for couples. This is for women who have chosen to change their life. This is not a forced house. You have Recovery Bridge housing where facilities will send their clients to houses. Those are the houses that you typically have problems with because they're working in compliance with the facility to be there. It's not a choice. It's not an active choice. What I propose is a house for women who have actively chosen to change their life, who have already started taking the steps to go down that path, to get on that journey of recovery at bettering their lives. These are women who are mothers, who are sisters, who are aunts, who are grandparents. Addiction is not discriminatory. It doesn't matter how old you are, what your background comes from, where you're from, the color of your skin, the color of your eyes, how tall you are. It affects everybody. It affected me. It's affected my family. My father died in his disease. And, given the opiate crisis and now fentanyl and everything, the chances of people going back out and coming back, and when I say go back out, meaning they relapse and coming back, we lose people all the time, every week. And that is what I'm fearful of these women, of losing their life. I've worked directly with them. And if you say, oh, you go through treatment, just go back to your house. A lot of these women have domestic violence cases. They are victims of domestic violence. They can't go back to those homes or they can't go back to those environments. So houses like this, the house that I want to open, offers affordable housing for women who can't afford a 2-bedroom apartment, can't afford a 1-bedroom apartment, can barely afford a room because that's it's outrageous. I lived here in Monrovia for 7 years. My apartment was $900. I lived off 218 Lime Avenue for 7 years. Literally, I could throw a softball and hit that place right now. I lived on May Avenue for a year. It's a phenomenal, phenomenal street. And it is amazing. And Monrovia itself is amazing. And a piece of my heart stays here in Monrovia. I still actively come to the street fair. I still go to meetings out here. Yes, there are meetings in Monrovia. There's a lot of people in Monrovia who are in recovery. And initially, I had asked people to come out, but I didn't want them to break their anonymity because that is something sacred to us. And it is up to the individual person to break their anonymity. And unfortunately, I tried being transparent with people. We were contemplating what we were going to do to the house, and that transparency turned into where we are today.
Cassandra, could you wrap up your comments,
Absolutely,
please?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Homes like these are a public health resource. They are a public safety tool. They are a pathway from relapse, a pathway from homelessness. And I've chosen women specifically because I have worked with them directly and have worked in recovery directly. I wish people would come and talk to me. I've freely given my phone number, and only 2, 3 people have talked to me, have reached out to me to allow me to answer their questions, to allow me to address their concerns. So I implore this to anybody who is listening and to the City Council. If you have questions, please talk to me directly. If you have concerns, please talk to me directly. Don't let others' biased opinion sway you into believing what they want to believe without direct evidence, without facts, without experience as somebody who needs this house, who's been in this house, and what it does for us, and how it contributes to our long-term recovery path. So please, speak with me. If, like I said, I already met with community development. If further meetings with the city are needed, I'd be happy to oblige.
Thank you.
I have no more speaker cards, Mayor.
Anyone else wanting to address the council on items not on our agenda? Not seeing any, then we will, could you come forward, please? That's okay. If you could give us your name at the podium.
Hi, my name is Trish Peterson. I'm a resident of Monrovia, and I live on May Avenue, and I've been there for about 20 years, and I love Monrovia. I love my neighbors, and I think I don't have anything like as eloquent as a lot of my neighbors who spoke up earlier, but I think my thought is I think everyone wants to help vulnerable populations, and I've spent my career doing that. And my concern is not in the fact that it's like we don't want to be like not in our backyard kind of vibe, but more like that house is 100 feet away from a liquor store. Is that in those people's best interest? Is there a better spot for them to get to their recovery? I just would wonder that. That's where my concern is. Also, talking about numbers, 2 in the front, 3 in the middle, 2 in the back, or something of that. Is that like 7 cars coming to an already extremely narrow street with 45 kids and probably 30 dogs running up and down on any given day? I kind of just wonder about the whole safety of it. And then I do wonder about, is this really the right spot for somebody to recover when literally right there is a giant market that says liquor? I would be concerned that we're not helping these people and that we're taking advantage of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to address the council on items not on our agenda? No, you had your turn. You'll have to wait till next time. I am going to close then public comment. Thank you for coming this evening, and you're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but thank you for your comments. And we will now move on into our reports of city manager. We don't have any public hearings this evening, but we will move on then to our reports of city manager and staff, beginning with RCM1. Mr. Feek. Let's wait just a second. We'll let them clear out there. It's always nice to have a full house that you're actually speaking to people. Yep. Yeah. Then you have to look animated like you're actually talking to somebody. No, not the right time. Okay, Mr. Feek.
All right. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The directives update you have before you today, I apologize, a little bit of a busy end of week last week, so I haven't had much chance to provide an update on these items. I do want to, however, highlight the listening public for several items that we'll be adding to the update that are, I think, of importance. Many are following along with. First item I'd like to share with City Council, this goes back to some time ago when the city was discussing, I'm just going to use the acronym PFOS. PFOS is a carbon compound that has been discharged into waterways across the country. It's been, and actually even globally, it's the type of Teflon material you see on your nonstick pans. It exists in different types of paints and chemicals, and there's a small amount of it in nearly every waterway in the country. But even in small microdose amounts, it's very harmful, it's cancer causing, and it's been something the city has been working to plan for an upgrade at our water system where we can actually treat and remove any available PFAS from our system. As we've been underway, working through planning and design for future plan improvements, we've also been submitting for state revolving loan funds and grants to help us pay for those reimbursements, pay for those costs, because it will be extensive. But we've also been following with global settlements. The city attorney's office, I think, has done a wonderful job of keeping the city apprised of settlement discussions. What's been very helpful for the city of Monrovia is we participate in class action lawsuits, which have allowed us to become party to class action suits and the settlements that accompany them in issues like the opioid settlement cases. There now are over 9 different class action lawsuits that have been settled, which result in the city receiving significant funds. We don't spend money on attorney costs, but we do receive benefit of joining the class action. I'm happy to report last week the city attorney's office shared that in 2 recent settlements, the city of Monrovia will be receiving $5.8 million to help offset costs associated with PFAS treatment. We're still learning a lot more details, but we expect that full amount to be sent to, it'll actually go through the city attorney's office, which they will then disperse them directly to the city of Monrovia before the end of this calendar year. There may be future settlements. There will certainly be a lot more discussions, but I am happy to provide that update to City Council. I think part of, if not this current budget season, next budget seasons, we'll be talking about plans for PFAS treatment at the plant. Earlier today, a couple hours before the meeting, I'm very happy to share that Edison announced they're going to issue a temporary entry permit for our last remaining piece of infrastructure that needs powered at Canyon Park. They told Alex they'd be bringing him paperwork tomorrow. We expect to be doing some testing of facilities next week. And while we are still waiting on Edison to give us construction timelines and installation work, we're really excited that we've now received the permit to do the work. So
Yay.
we're going to begin planning some dignitary events, some public events, and a reopening of Canyon Park here very, very soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Last but not least, on other items that have been on previous updates, I'd like to ask if Alex could come to the podium. There's the council, as you are aware, from the time we joined, and maybe even prior to joining Clean Power Alliance, we've been hyper-focused not just on reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the city, but also looking at ways that the city itself could implement different projects that would provide added value to the community. And I've asked Alex to provide an update on 2 possible ideas for council related, one project for EV charging and one project for solar. I do want to highlight that for purposes of tonight's discussion, we're really just providing kind of an overview of these concepts. I want to get your general temperature on it. If it's something that you want us to proceed with, it won't take us long to actually prepare formal reports and return to City Council for your actual approval. So you're not approving anything tonight.
Dylan, can I just clarify? I know that Clean Power Alliance was going to fund certain projects. Are we talking about something outside of that?
Completely outside.
Okay.
The Clean Power Alliance has a couple different community project funding programs, which between the two, it's about $250,000 apiece. And we've been trying to kind of earmark those towards either new EV charging or building retrofits. A great potential project is our community center renovation project. But we really want to try to apply those funds to an upcoming project where we also have a funding gap.
Great.
All right. Thank you, Dylan, and good evening, Mayor and Council. So as Dylan eloquently put, we're going to try to give a high-level overview of two potential projects that have been presented to staff. So a quick overview of Project One. So, the council and the city have been active on the energy efficiency front. Joining Clean Power Alliance is one of the main things that the city has done recently. In addition to that, purchase of EV vehicles and the installation of EV chargers. Council recently approved the LED street light retrofit. And then over the last several years in our water system, we've been installing new VFD pumps for the water system. That allows our entire water system to be more energy efficient by installing premium efficient motors and being able to save substantially on energy costs. We've been reviewing proposals related to EV charging and energy efficiency. State law has given contractors who do energy efficiency projects a little bit more leeway in the procurement process, and so it allows contractors to actually proactively reach out to cities and then actively shop potential projects. So tonight, we're seeking your input on two of these potential projects. Again, if council is supportive of one or both or none of those projects, we're looking for that input tonight. For Project One, the EV chargers, the interesting thing about this project is that, as council is aware, over the last few years, we've installed EV chargers, but they're not the DC fast chargers, they're level 2 chargers. So typically, those chargers charge vehicles between 4 to 10 hours, so they're longer-term charging options. The project presented before us is actually a DC fast charger, which means that all of the charging would be between 20 minutes to 40 minutes. Ideally, you go from anywhere from 20% up to 80% in a shorter amount of time. So much quicker than the chargers that we have available to us. The company or the contractor that's being shown here is Maxim Energy. And so I'll get into what the proposal is in the next slide. Before we get to that, though, there are some possible locations that the council can consider, and we haven't finalized any of these. But some of the ideas of possible locations that Dylan and I have talked about are near the 210 freeway corridor. That's typically where you see a lot of your vehicular traffic. There's short-term parking needs near businesses versus potential 8-hour parking. So Old Town parking is somewhere where we have a lot of 8-hour parking. So there would be a little bit of a shift in the dynamic of Old Town parking if we wanted to consider that. And then customers who want to shop while they're waiting. And so those are all factors that we'll have to consider when we finalize the location. We also reviewed several city-owned lots. So we have the Park and Ride lot off of Myrtle near the A-Line station, the community center at 119 West Palm, which we're evaluating for the new community center renovation. Parking lots 7 and 8. So in the recent comprehensive street improvement project, we redid parking lot 7 and 8. One of the things that we did is that we actually installed conduit ahead of time so that if we do want to consider an EV charging project, it's there and we have a predetermined location ready for it. And then the main lot at 139 East Lime, so right across the street from our police department. And then an Old Town lot right behind Jake's Roadhouse.
Alex, can I ask you, the ones that are in the parking lot at Vaughn's, I know those belong to Vaughn's or at least that shopping center. What type of, I'm just curious, what type of chargers are those?
That I'm aware of, I believe they're DC2, but I'd have to get back to you. So they'd be similar to the ones that we have.
Okay.
And so if council wanted to consider this an example of what the Park and Ride lot could look like, so you see Bottom in the middle of your screen there, there's those four. They look like gas station icons, but what we're trying to show there is that that would be a location for potential fast chargers. In an installation like this, if you have 4 of these, that means you would have 2 chargers on either end. So 4 units would equal 8 chargers. So you'd be able to charge up to 8 vehicles in an installation like this. So that's one potential option for the park and ride lot, should council want to proceed with that.
Are those movable? I say if that lot were to be developed, can you move the actual equipment someplace else?
Yeah, theoretically, you would be able to move the equipment. And I can get into this later with the proposal from Maxim, but in this particular case, equipment is typically movable. You're just moving conduit, you're moving equipment, and then you could relocate it. You would just have to reinstall the electrical at your new location. So within this option, there's actually within this project, there's 2 different options. So option 1 that Maxim has presented to us is that the city could own and maintain this. We would outright have to pay about $520,000 to install 2 units, which would charge up to 4 vehicles. And then you would have an annual O&M of about $9,000 to $10,000. This is much more expensive than what we've done with the DC2 chargers, but certainly provides a much faster charge. The other option, which seems to be a little bit more interesting, is that there's an option where it's a non-city owned, which means that Maxim Energy would own and maintain the infrastructure in perpetuity. It would be no cost to the city. Maxim would own and maintain all of its infrastructure. And then when we come back to the city council then to adopt a formal rate for the charging, we would then actually earn a percentage of the net sales associated with the charging. So there is a little bit of an economic incentive associated with this option. So for next steps then, we would like to kind of pause here on this project, get feedback from council. Should you want to move forward on it, we would be able to come back to council with that formal proposal. We would be talking to the city attorney about EV charging rates, and then we'd be coming back, presenting that, and then we would be able to install within 7 to 9 months. But I'll pause there. It seems like there might be some questions related to this project.
Council?
Okay, on the option 2, can we go back to option 2 on the screen? Okay. No cost to the city. It says Maximum Energy would own and maintain all infrastructure. What does that mean?
So it means that Maxim would own the actual unit itself. They would install the conduit, all of the electrical wiring would all be installed by Maxim. The only thing that the city would be basically allowing Maxim to do is like leasing the parking space. So they would be on city property, but they would not own the physical property. They would only own the actual unit itself.
On option 1, what's the potential to make money from that one for the city?
I believe it would be similar to option 2. It hasn't been set yet, but we would come back to council. We can provide that.
That's my interest. I want to see a dollars and cents comparison between option 1 and option 2 in terms of income generated for the city.
But the city would be putting that $500 up front, right?
That's correct.
To
So
put the cost in. I mean, to put the infrastructure in.
that's correct. So if we did go with option 1, the city upfront would be paying the $520,000.
Sure, but I think the question at hand is like, what's the payback period, right? I mean, do you pay for it in 5 years, and that means for the next 20 years, you're bringing in all the benefit, and you already paid your capital costs? Then that's beneficial for the city potentially, right? So it's really good to know what's that payoff
I think the
period
choice
and
is
so we can understand that.
what it'll bring into the city versus what it'll cost.
And then I guess my question is, I mean, it sounds like a really worthwhile proposal. I'm curious, there's probably a few companies out there doing this. I would be curious why we're not sending out maybe a solicitation or asking other folks, hey, the city's interested, please come in. Because, I mean, it sounds like Bonds has one. We see them at a lot of other private developments. And I'm curious also, like, what those folks are getting back for their lease terms to make sure we're getting at least the same lease terms and potentially from what this company's offering. I don't know. So it sounds nice when they say, hey, we'll offer you the deal. But I don't know what the deal is that they could get from a private landowner and whether or not we're getting a better deal.
Alex, I don't know if you've noticed, but in Duarte on Huntington Drive, there's a new facility. It's multiple charging units on the north side. It's pretty close to completion. Check it out.
Can do.
If I could make a few comments. One, as far as I know, the nearest DC fast chargers, there's one in Arcadia and there's one in El Monte. So most all the units that you see here in the San Gabriel Valley are all the level 2. To your question though about how we got involved with them, the way I became connected with, it was actually my office with Maxim Energy. They're doing a project at St. Luke's. Up on Foothill Boulevard. Came highly recommended from the Reverend there. But they're also talking with the new owners of the Huntington Oaks Shopping Center. The primary locations to place the fast chargers are again in those 210 corridors, shopping areas where you're trying to bring people in. What I might suggest, and actually if I could go back a slide, Alex, if you can go back to the park and ride lot. We had shared these different locations with Maxim Energy, and I think generally they really liked the park and ride lot. I guess as Alex and I go back and work on kind of future considerations for council, I think I understand the options between city-owned versus non-owned, and just looking at the economics of it, I think that's the decision point. Another question I have is related to park and ride. Does the council have any concerns about using the park and ride lot for whichever option we would use?
Does it take up, just as what I'm looking at now, it's looking like it's taking up about, what, 4 parking stalls?
I think it would be 4 spaces to
About
begin.
4 spaces. So for me, I wouldn't mind using that as long as it's not taking up
Okay.
a bunch of space. It looks like it's only taking up 4 parking spaces, so it's leaving the rest of the space open for the park and ride.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up and I asked about moving it is because I know from, not recently, but there have been offers of development of that lot, and I was just curious. I don't think anything's under consideration, even remotely on the horizon for that lot. I might think about, because there's so many units that are going into that area, I would want to make sure that it was really open to the public and not that they're not the public, but if the units there, that they weren't coming and using those spaces. I don't know. Like I said, you'd have to think about, have to come up with something.
Is that one vehicle on each side, Alex?
Yeah.
Or is it just one per unit?
It's one charger on either
So
end of
8.
the unit, so 8 total.
Yeah.
And, the way we're moving in terms of what the mandates are coming down, in terms of, you and I know, with being on the EENR, that we're going to have to be very aggressive in keeping up with the mandates as it relates to electric vehicles. And the fact that they're moving, they're able to charge it in, what did you say, 30 minutes? How many minutes again?
Up to 30.
30 minutes as opposed to 8 hours. So I personally think it's a great idea, but seeing how much we're getting back and making those comparisons to what other companies could be offering, if we can make even more with another company or whatever. So, but I think the idea overall is a great idea.
And if you're looking at option 1, Alex, can you bring back the maintenance? What is the upkeep on if we were to purchase that? Hold on. If you would bring that back too?
Absolutely, we can include that in both options.
Okay, thanks.
Last question. I think it looks like there's at least somewhat of a medium to almost fast charger that just put in at the Chevron station right there. So it's at least 62 kilowatts. I don't know if it's not as fast as some fast, but apparently it's maybe.
We'll also look around at things like there's there's federal rebates and incentives, there's state grant programs still for chargers. Any program with Edison, we're going to stay away from. But I think we've got enough. This is the first time the council has discussed this item. So I think it's been great feedback for us. What we'll do is We'll take the time to study it and come back to you. If you have any additional questions that you can think of in the meantime, let us know. But we'll plan to do a more formal report, responses to the items, considerations for you at a later meeting. The other exciting thing about a proposal like this is this firm has demonstrated they've done many other projects in Southern California, and they feel very confident that, you know, a 6-month construction window for on a site that's owned by the city is reasonable for them. So I do think it is a quick project once we do decide what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So we'll return as soon as we have more info.
Dylan, I just quickly, is the Metro parking structure, does it have any charging spaces?
It does.
It does? And then I'd be curious what all the projects around that area, to what degree they offer. I'm sure they offer something, charging units for their residents. Be interesting to know. Okay, all right. So do you have enough direction, sir?
I believe so.
All
That
right,
gives
well,
us direction.
thank you very much. Great presentation.
I apologize, Mayor. And then there's project number 2.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No.
So project 2, so as Dylan mentioned earlier, we've been approached again by another contractor who's looking to do solar panels. This one specifically is at Mountain Avenue at the Public Works Corporate Yard. We have our Mountain Avenue Reservoir on that site. It's on the northern most part of the property. Several years ago, we submitted an application for Net Energy Metering 2.0 or NEM, which would allow the city to utilize solar energy for city facilities. For lack of a better way of phrasing it, it's kind of like city and state and Edison and the utility companies. It's their way of kind of almost credit trading in some ways. So staff was approached by Verlux Energy about the potential for NEM 2.0, which was the application that we submitted for projects at several sites, but we determined that Mountain Avenue was the most viable option right now. So the project would propose a power purchase agreement, which means that Verlux Energy would be procuring energy on behalf of the city and would be selling that energy back to the city at a guaranteed discount rate. So in this case, they'd be guaranteeing a 15% discount rate off of whatever the market rate is based on what Edison sets their rate at. And then the energy that Verlux is selling back to the city is the energy that's generated from these solar panels. So some project details. So this is a very, very high level concept of what Verlux is proposing. It's, again, high level details. So what they'd be proposing here is putting solar panels on top of the mountain reservoir. The number of panels is yet to be determined, but what they tried to do in this site plan here is show kind of what their typical installation looks like. And so they would have a flat surface on the building itself. They'd be installing several panels throughout that. They would size and determine the number of panels based on the load that the reservoir creates or is in demand of. And then you would see these rows in between the panels. And that's because Verlux is proposing to own and maintain all of the solar panels. So similar to the last one where the contractor is owning and maintaining, this is a similar concept. So some high-level project details again. This is another interesting option where the city has no upfront or ongoing costs through this power purchase agreement. We would be leasing the rooftop to Verlux Energy. They would own and maintain that infrastructure, and so they'd be on the hook for replacing, repairing, cleaning, doing all the maintenance associated with this system. The city is guaranteed a discount at 15% below that market rate, so below the Edison rate. And then we do have the ability to purchase the system after year 6, and then between year 6 and year 20 is kind of how they've shown the proposal here. We have the ability to purchase it on an annual basis should we choose to do so. As far as next steps then, if council would like to move forward on something like this, the idea would be that we would come back to the council with a power purchase agreement that would spell out the terms at which that we would be purchasing that power at that discounted rate. We would further develop the concept plans for the project, so we'd be working through design and permitting. We would have to submit this to our community development department, have them review. Building and electrical permits must be issued for this. And then all in, we think that this project is actually another quick build project. So should council approve a power purchase agreement, we'd be looking at having solar panels on the reservoir within 6 months.
Alex, has there been other companies besides Verlox that have been interested or approached the city?
Nothing as serious as what Verlux has proposed. Typically, a lot of the contractors that have approached us, or at least I know that have approached Public Works recently, they're more interested in streetlights and facilities, not necessarily the solar panels on top of a water facility. So this one is a little unique. I don't know if Dylan's been approached by anyone else, but this is the first time a company has approached us about our water system in particular.
Any other questions?
I mean, it sounds like a great idea. I think it's a pretty good location. It's good, something that's probably an easy win. I think I have the same question of whether or not there's a few
better
others, if we
deal.
want to just at least make a few phone calls to folks, just to make sure somebody else doesn't have I mean, once they start sending you a draft power purchase agreement, you'll know the terms and conditions. I think some of the folks that have solar panels on your home, sometimes you get the, after a certain number of years, you just automatically own them outright. So I don't know if that's common for the commercial options as well or not, but.
And I was just curious, the structure itself, the reservoir structure, we don't need to do anything, or would they be doing it, prepping it for any type of installation?
The only work that we would need to do, so if we looked back at this site plan here, right now, on the rooftop of the reservoir, we have some dirt and a little bit of
yeah.
grass and landscaping. So staff would need to remove that in order for the concrete structure to be exposed. Verlux would then attach itself to the concrete
And maybe they
structure.
could paint it too.
Well,
Did they give you a, oh, sorry.
It doesn't look as bad as it did before.
But it's still, it could be prettied up a little bit.
Yeah.
I think you've got a consensus that we all think it's a neat idea. Just kind of bring us back a few more details.
Not a problem. So I think
Do we know the kilovolts or kilowatts, I should say?
so it's 635 watt. No, I'm sorry, 600K. Yeah.
And who sets the lease rate for the rooftop? Do we make the ask, or they tell us how much they're willing to pay?
Well, I think that's part of the negotiation, but I think I guess the assumption is that it wouldn't necessarily be overly cumbersome since we own the property. They'd be selling us at that discounted rate. I don't necessarily think it'd be a big money generator through the lease.
Okay. Well, it would be nice to have it painted. At any rate, any other questions? Great presentation. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to RCM2, San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District request for letter of support related to the state funding for mosquito control in Eaton fire impacted communities. And Mr. Feek.
Yes, City Council, included in your agenda report is just a request from Mosquito and Vector Control asking for a letter of support from cities. The concern is following the Eaton fires and all the debris removal and cleanup activities, all of the privately owned pools throughout the burn areas are significantly impacted in a variety of ways, including they're now, mosquito breeding grounds. And the problem is Mosquito and Vector Control, which we are a member of the special district, has been very actively treating all of these pools to prevent a future major public health and safety issue, but they're not receiving any additional funding from the state or at least from FEMA. But I'm not sure if they've received any additional local or state support. But what was requested was a letter of support from the city of Monrovia in efforts to gain FEMA funding. So attached is a draft letter provided by Mosquito Vector Control. If there's no concern or opposition, I would finalize the letter and submit it to Mosquito and Vector Control, hopefully helping in their quest to get some much-needed resources to the organization.
Any questions? No. Yeah, I did ask Greater LA, they're using reserves to to backfill a lot of their costs, which is very dangerous, because then you don't have anything if there's some type of a emergency or outbreak of some type of disease, you don't have anything to pay for it. But unfortunately, mosquito abatement is not a box on the FEMA reimbursement in a disaster situation, so it's very unfortunate. So it would be very nice. Hopefully, we'll get somewhere with our lobbying, our legislators in the state to see if we can get some money. So, what do you think, guys?
Yep.
We good?
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, moving on to RCM 3, City Monrovia General Plan Annual Report, and we are going to Sherry Bermejo, Community Development Director.
All right. Good evening,
you,
Mayor
Sherry.
and members of the City Council.
Good evening.
It's my pleasure to report yet again an annual report on the status of the city's general plan. This is a report that the Community Development Department actually prepares on a yearly basis. We submit it to the City Council first for your review and receipt, and once it's accepted, it gets submitted to the California Department of Housing and Community Development and also the Office of Planning and Research. So the primary purpose of this annual report is to do an overview and check on whether the city is meeting the goals, policies, and actions of its general plan, or that it's making really good progress in meeting those. And I think I'm happy to report that the city of Monrovia, under the city council's leadership, is doing a phenomenal job. So this slide here is an annual progress report of the city's RENA numbers. I think the council has seen this chart many times over the course of the last couple of months. This chart is completed now. It contains all of our housing units where permits have been issued through the years 2021 through 2024. It's important to note that the six-cycle housing period covers 8 years, so we're already halfway through our housing cycle. And a key takeaway is our RENA, a total number of units that we were allocated for this cycle was 1,670 units, and to date, the city has issued 1,168 units. So we are doing very good on our total unit production with permit issuance. In the years 22 and 23, you can see in the above moderate categories, there was an increase in the number of permits unit issues. Those 2 years comprised the projects of the Alexan, Station Square South, and 127 Pomona, our large projects underway in Station Square. And then it is true that we have some more work to do in the affordability levels. But the City Council, which I'll review with you, has done an exceptional job on forwarding and implementing a lot of the housing programs to facilitate the production of those units. So I decided to add this slide for your review. This slide highlights the type of units that have been built over the course of this present housing cycle. What it's showing is projects consisting of units that are either single-family or projects consisting of units that are 2 to 4 units, or greater than 5, or accessory dwelling unit development. Again, based on the permit issuance numbers that we just saw, this is just a picture showing that our largest projects have been the multifamily housing project in Station Square. We see those in 22 and 23. That's the yellow bar. We also see that the majority of the next kind of most popular housing development unit is our ADU. And we are making really good progress on our ADU development, an average about 50 per year. Now, in recent years, HCD has not only looked at how many permits a city is issuing towards meeting their housing goals, they actually are taking a look now on how many applications the city's receiving, how many applications they're deeming complete and approving, and how many certificates of occupancy the city's issuing with their applications. And so this slide gives an overview, doesn't include in permits, but every other part of the development process to make sure there's no kink in our development process, and it's looking very healthy. In 2024, we had a spike in certificates in an occupancy issued, and that was the Alexan project that came online last November. And then speaking about accessory dwelling units, we are doing very well. So when we set out, we put our housing element together, the state HCD said, okay, Monrovia, we want you to produce 232 units. We're halfway through the cycle, and the totals show that we've approved 228, and those are building applications submitted. We've permitted 213, and we have issued certificate of occupancy certificates of 152. So I think we're going to blow HCD out of the water and just tell them how great we are. We're going to double what their requirement was for us. But it's not all the numbers, right? It's not all permits. It's not all the review. Since the city has adopted their cycle housing element under the council's direction and leadership, there have been a lot of programs that the city council has approved to facilitate housing, and not just housing, but affordable housing. This is a summary slide that highlights some of those efforts, the reduced minimum dwelling unit size for multifamily housing, the removal of that conditional use permit requirement to streamline and facilitate approval process, the adoption of objective design standards that takes the guessing game for a developer on whether a project's going to be approved. This year, the city's ADU ordinance went through a complete overhaul. It's now compliant with state law. Last month, we've updated our city's website with an ADU portal, and it now has some of the pre-approved plans that the council saw during our ADU update already in use for the community. The city council conducted a very lengthy inclusionary housing study that began last year, concluded in March, and we have an inclusionary housing ordinance that's now in the public hearing process that will be coming before the city council very shortly. And last but not least, the team is now working on a density bonus ordinance for the city of Monrovia, which we'll hope to have to you by the summer. But beyond that, the city council has also approved several efforts that are outside of the housing element program that really focused on turning the dirt, making results happen now. And some of those projects that are really noteworthy include its participation with LA County Pathway Home Project for the new interim housing shelter on Huntington Drive. The city continues to work with the developer of 701 South Myrtle. That's a mixed-use housing project that's currently preparing their CEQA document, which will soon be released. And then in the last few meetings, the city council adopted a resolution which approved the bond issuance to facilitate a current market rate housing of 156 units with senior units to go 100% affordable.
So is that going to change the numbers back on the other slide?
No, because of the deed restrictions
okay.
associated, we get feel-good credit. We don't really get RENA credit.
You got it.
Yet.
Okay.
The housing study, so the city will be participating with the San Gabriel Valley COG for the use of REAP funding to do a housing study to see not only will we be considering the preservation, right, of a Victorian home, but how can we use that property to facilitate additional housing? And last but not least, the city council support and use of the CDBG funding for rehab grants. The general plan annual report is very housing heavy, but it also includes a summary, an update of different actions that we have taken that supports other elements of the general plan. I think this last slide covers some very noteworthy projects, including the preservation efforts that are underway for the Steve Baker homes at 508 and 512 South Ivy Avenue. Last year, the city council approved 4 new local landmarks and with Mills Act contracts. The fire department has been working very hard on completing their local hazard mitigation plan for the city of Monrovia, and hopes to have it done by the end of this year. And our community service department has been doing a lot of park redevelopment plans. They're all listed here on this slide, including preparing a development plan for a brand-new park, Sotero Sunishi Park. And then last but not least, one nice effort that we get credit for in line with environmental justice is allowing that farmer's market not only to participate here in Old Town, but extending it down to Station Square was a very nice move of providing, healthy food access to other parts of the city. So I think Monrovia is doing phenomenal, and with that, I'd like to conclude this report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Great report, Sherry. Any questions of Sherry?
I might just have more of a comment. Very excited that we were able to double our housing. And as a matter of fact, I was at the Los Angeles Economic Development Conference, and I mentioned this in a talk that I did concerning our housing and how we were leading. I think we were number 3. Are we number 3 in the most? Oh, number 6. Number 6 in the in terms of building the most housing. And I made that announcement, and throughout cities in Los Angeles County, and there was a standing ovation concerning what Monrovia was doing in that regard. So for that, I'm excited about that provision.
All right, great.
Thank you for all the great work.
Yeah, thank you.
And I have to tell at the tour, the homes tour, and I was really pushing everyone to make sure they went and saw the bungalow courts, and to show what really can be done with a little ingenuity and thought, and really, that's a great project.
Just one last little question on this, since it's a great overview of all the general plan elements. I was curious if there's any elements, maybe like the conservation element, that might need an update sometime.
I think it might, yes. It
Might be like a little dated.
It might, it's very little outdated. Yes, we always have that on our work plan.
All right, well, that sounds great, and so thank you very much. And so do we need
This was
anything?
just an overview.
Information?
The report was on the consent calendar, so it was adopted. Tomorrow, your planning division team will be sending this up to the state of California.
And this is part of our reporting back to make sure we're doing what we told them we were going to do.
So we maintain having a certified housing element.
All right, great job.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to close that portion then, and we're going to move on to our reports of city council members. At any rate, the council, all but Edward, and not because he was trying to, not participate, he couldn't join us, but the remaining 4 of us did go to Sacramento for the Cal Cities Leaders Summit. And we had decided, so that to avoid overlap and you all having to hear the same thing from all of us, that we would each pick a section that we felt particularly drawn to. And so at any rate, hopefully we won't be repeating ourselves here. And so with that in mind, I am going to go ahead and start with Edward.
Great. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, while some of the folks were doing really great business up in Sacramento, I did have the pleasure to participate in one of the school tours that our city manager's office and all the staff lead here in Monrovia, and it's fantastic to see third graders, right? Just have a chance to learn so much about our city, how they can become fantastic residents of Monrovia and participate in maybe coming and speaking in a public meeting, but also even learn how to vote, which is outstanding, and then just finding out what a fire truck looks like up and close, or a police unit themselves. And I never heard exactly what they did finally decide to vote on, but it's always interesting to hear, for sure. A lot of great events took place, of course, during the past few weeks. We had a little extra week because of the calendar for ourselves. But there was a outstanding recognition for the Adrenaline Run Club. They had a celebrated anniversary, so they all said they missed you all while you were out, but they would
Well,
love
thank
to
you
have
for
this, have
covering
you.
for us.
They'd love to see you all run. We should all go out there and take a walk with them or run. And it's every Wednesday night. Great group. And also, we had a chance to welcome and recognize a lot of our community members, our older American community members here in Monrovia. Wonderful luncheon, and they all missed you as well. And they knew you were doing great work up there, and hopefully next time you'll see them. Did participate in the Clean Power Alliance board meeting that was hosted last week. One of the things that we looked at, we didn't approve new rates, but we did approve like a plan of action, and the new rates will come back in June. The rates, what CPA does is they try to match up those rates with Edison rates so that they're very comparable. That does mean there will be some small increases for the 100% green versus like the lean, and then the kind of just generic power that they provide will be equal to the Edison rates for that as well. But there will be a little bit more of a premium for folks that are going out of the way to buy the 100% green power coming your way soon. But they're doing the best they can to make sure that those rates are very affordable, and looking at those future kind of purchase power agreements that they can take to make sure that those rates go. But we will anticipate increasing costs for delivery rates. So the delivery rates that Edison is charging still is on a trajectory to increase and continue to climb. Just for us all to be aware of. I assume Councilmember Spicer might mention something about the event we just went to on Saturday, right?
What, Deanna H. Jones?
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. I'll
If I don't, Becky will.
Yeah, I'll let you guys talk
I'll
about
do
that.
cleanup.
There was a great event as well, just this Saturday, at Arcadia Regional Park, or County Park Waterfest that was hosted by our Upper Water District, and a lot of different local nonprofits were there. Great to see the communities come out, just celebrate time and recognition and awareness on conservation efforts, what we can do to reduce our own use. And I think last time we had Upper District here to talk about their incentive programs and subsidies and ways you can save money at your own house. And so check those out at their website. They're available there. And of course, on Sunday, we had a chance to go out and see a wonderful array of lovely, lovely historic homes. And just want to say thanks to all the folks that were involved in that, all the docents, all the community members that had a chance to share their homes, and of course, all of us that got to go and walk around and appreciate them. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Great. Larry?
Okay, I'll start off with the report on community services. So we're just a little over a week from our 139th birthday and the Monrovia Days 4-day celebration.
We're still looking real good for 130.
Absolutely. This year, the parade would be a Western theme and will be held on Thursday, May 15th at 7 p.m. right in the heart of Old Town. There is still time to enter the parade. The only thing you need to do is just go to monroviadays.org and register. The festival will be held Friday through Sunday, and we promise there'll be fun for the entire family. Go to monroviadays.org to learn more. We also just want to thank the many businesses who have donated to the event, allowing us to keep the festival affordable to all the families. So watch for the promotion of these businesses. They have given close to $50,000 thanks to our city manager who made this happen. Also, I attended the Leadership Summit in Sacramento along with my other colleagues here on the council, and each one of us decided to take a different part of the conference as not to just continue to repeat. So my part of the concert that I enjoyed was the transparent and effective leadership. And within that, there was 3 different forms that forms a powerful foundation. One was trust. Trust is the cornerstone of any successful relationship, especially between leaders and their teams or the public. To build trust, leaders must consistently act with integrity and align their actions with their words. Transparency plays a big role here. Openly sharing information, admitting mistakes, and demonstrating accountability fosters an environment where people feel secure and respected. Trust also grows when leaders genuinely listen, value the input, and follow through on the commitments. Number 2, intent. Intent is about showing that your motives are genuine and aligned with the greater good. Leaders who clearly communicate their vision and objectives while prioritizing collective well-being earn respect and confidence. Authenticity is key. People need to see that the leader actions are not self-serving, but rather aimed at serving the team, community, or organization. Actions that demonstrate empathy, fairness, and inclusivity can amplify the perception of positive intent. 3, competence. Competence builds credibility. It's about leaders demonstrating the knowledge, skills, and expertise necessary to make sound decisions and drive results. Competent leaders not only understand their field, but also inspire confidence by continually learning, adapting, and tackling challenges effectively. By being decisive, well-informed, and solution-oriented, they show that they are capable of delivering on their promises. So when you have these 3 elements, they form a powerful foundation. So leaders who embody trust, intent, and competence not only earn public trust, but also inspire loyalty and foster a collaborative culture. And that's my report.
Wowie zowie. Okay, Dr. Kelly.
All right. I would like, there were so many sessions that were very helpful. I would like to say, first, I really enjoyed spending time with my colleagues, and being able to learn alongside one another was a plus for me, except for Larry. But but everybody else, it was a pleasure. But one of the sessions that I was able to attend was on environmental justice. And I thought that was very, it just was very informational. According to SB 1000, it requires cities to include environmental justice in general plans, but few cities are implementing it. AB 617 is clean air planning in overburdened areas. That's what that speaks of. And so why is this important? Why is environmental justice important? Well, the history on environmental justice is, so these are some of the elements in terms of why it's important. Environmental justice is important in underserved communities. Freeways and industry were deliberately placed in underserved communities. Exclusion from tree planting and green spaces in housing protections in underserved communities. Displacement through eminent domain and urban renewal. So this is some of the things that were brought out concerning environmental justice and the importance of having an environmental plan within the community, particularly to help underserved communities. Sorry, Madam Mayor, I thought you were going to go in order, so I kind of was not prepared. Okay, so that's what I want to say about that. Another thing that I want to bring out concerning some events that are coming up for the library. the library, this Wednesday, May 7th, the library will be hosting a thank you dinner for veterans and their families. This is a great opportunity for veterans to learn more about the resources available and how to access the services. This is a free event and always proves to be an enjoyable evening. If you know a veteran or you're a service member yourself, please join us at 6 p.m. at the library. On Saturday, May 10th, from 12 to 2, the library will be hosting a family literacy event, a recipe for reading. Parents and their children are the first teacher. Parents are their children's first teachers, and this is a great way to foster the love of reading for your entire family. This is a free event with some food and free books. This is an announcement from MOTAB. Just a reminder for all that the Friday night street fair is now open late. Join in the fun until 10 p.m. every Friday night till 10. Grab a bite to eat at one of the Old Town restaurants and maybe do a little shopping while you stroll the charm of our Old Town. And so when you go to the fair, we want to encourage you to eat in Monrovia. I know it's so tempting to go and eat in Pasadena or go and eat in Duarte, and that's fine, but we want you to eat in Monrovia because we want your business in Monrovia. So please consider patronizing the businesses in Monrovia. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you very much. Sergio?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the City Leaders Summit was great, but what I took most out of it was the opportunity to lobby our local elected officials. Earlier today, Larry used the term "we," and that's what we did. We went as a team. We split up. The 4 council members who went, our mayor and Mayor Pro Tem talked to Assemblyman John Harbedian, who represents Monrovia, and Larry and I went to Senator Paris' office. We spoke to the Chief of Staff, Edmundo Cuevas, and we had very specific concerns about SB 634, which was actually authored by the senator. It basically would have taken away local control over regulations relating to the unhoused. It would have made it difficult for us to actually help the unhoused, although it was well intended. We saw this as an opportunity to educate a local member of the legislature on what we were doing here to help the unhoused, specifically with our Pathway Homes project, and that this type of legislation was actually damaging to our efforts to continue helping them. And he was taking copious notes as we were meeting with him, paying attention to us, nodding, yes, yes. And we invited Mr. Cuevas as well as the senator to come to Monrovia so we can show them what we're doing to help the unhoused, and actually in housing in general, what we're doing here in Monrovia. Well, I sent to Larry when I got the news from the California cities that they totally changed SB 634 from its original intent, which we were so opposed to. So my message is lobbying works. Going there, talking to them. There are elected officials. Don't be afraid to ask. And to those members of the audience, don't be afraid to talk to us as your council members also. When you see something that you feel is not in the best interest of Monrovia, if it's not in the interest of the residents of Monrovia, let us know. We're here to listen. Again, the workshops were great. But that was, to me, the key, the lobbying, going there and talking to them. On the school tours, one of the things I like to do on the school tours, I ask the young people who wants to be a fireman or a police officer, because we did tours. The kids did tours of the school, of the police and fire departments, and they came right here. They sat up here, and they got to see how government works firsthand. Not in a classroom, but right here where it happens here in City Hall. So it was a hands-on experience for Monrovia's youth. I also want to say thank you to our fire chief, Sanchez, who invited us to the badging ceremony, which happened to be in this room also, for the new elevated members of the Monrovia Fire and Rescue. It was very inspiring, but I'm going to be very specific what was really inspiring. There was a fourth-generation firefighter, a father, who was putting on the badge on his fifth-generation firefighter in that family's son here in Monrovia. You see the tradition, the commitment for public service that these first responders have. That was really, to me, the most moving moment in that whole ceremony. And I also wanted to talk about another very moving experience, which is honoring Anna H. Jones and Sophia Jones, great Monrovians. Now, these ladies, I had heard about them years ago. I don't know how many people had the opportunity to go to Steve Baker's tour of the Live Oak Cemetery. I remember him talking about them. They were in an unmarked grave, these very prominent Monrovia residents. These ladies, they were sisters, one was an educator, another one was a doctor, but they were both civil rights leaders. There's a book in Kansas that talks about a neighborhood of black leaders that had their homes destroyed. And the Jones sisters actually came to California, I wouldn't say to retire, but maybe to find some place that was maybe not as hostile to them as the environment that they were in. These ladies, they're no longer lying in unmarked graves. They got their graves. And I want to send a thank you to the change makers and all the individuals and organizations that made that possible. And finally, as a board member of MOPEG and a Monrovia history fan, the 41st annual Old Homes Tour was important, not just because you got to see beautiful older homes, but because really it's Monrovia's historic identity. One of the many things that makes it special, it's a standout. Monrovia's homes, which date back to the 1800s, the early 1900s, you got to see not just the outside, like many of us see when we're driving by, we got to see the inside. And it was a really good feel Monrovia day. So, Madam Mayor, that's my report. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'll kind of play a little bit of a catch up or cleanup at the end. The mention of SB 634, and I wanted to show, this is what they gave us on that first day, and it was a really neat little trifold document here, and it had all the designated pieces of legislation that either Cal Cities has come out in support or opposition of, or concerns, and under fiscal sustainability, infrastructure, and homelessness and housing. But again, specifically that 634. And yes, lobbying
horrible.
does, yeah. And I met a gentleman who was there, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And they said, "Oh, I'm here to testify on behalf of," that's SB 634. And I said, "You do know that the majority of the cities are against this?" And he says, "Well, we're making a lot of amendments, and I'm not quite sure why they even came out with it to begin with, but just FYI, tomorrow at the COG Homelessness Committee meeting, the SB 634 is going to be discussed. Our lobbyist will be leading a conversation about the future of the bill. We don't anticipate taking any or making any recommendations, especially after Cal Cities has withdrawn their position of opposition. They're just now in a neutral position. But I think Ms. Perez, she's a freshman senator, and she found out what it was like to hear from her constituents. So there you go. And thank you very much. And yes, Tamala and I were in a hallway talking to Assemblymember Harbedian, and he was really, really interested in this little pamphlet. So that was very handy. I will say there were sessions talking about federal funding update, and almost, I don't care where you are, what the conversation is, it's just, don't know right now. It's a wait and see. But one of the items that we all voted on in November was the Proposition 36, the Drug and Theft Crime Penalties and Treatment Mandated Felonies Initiative. at any rate, and that was in November, and it passed with a 70% approval rating, making it clear that the people want to see action in addressing the growing rates of retail theft and substance abuse disorder. However, in January, the state's proposed budget notably did not make any major investments toward funding the implementation of Proposition 36, leaving many wondering how implementation can be reached. So they were talking about that, and again, lobbying efforts with the legislators in Sacramento, and especially Senate Budget Committee and other members of the budget committees, demanding that something be included in the budget or more monies be included in the budget to implement Proposition 36. I could read you the letter, but it's rather long. So that was very interesting. And we had a great keynote speaker at the end, where's his name? I'm sorry. Too many notes here. Well, we had some good keynote speakers that provided some incentives and enthusiasm for the days that we were up there. That I will wrap up that portion of my report on the summit. I have too many pages here. Then I also, on Thursday and Friday of last week, I attended on behalf of the City of Monrovia, the SCAG General Assembly. It's a very quick trip down to Palm Desert and then back the next day, and its primary purpose is to pass a budget for SCAG and also ratify the new executive team, the board. And so I was going to tell you at least who's the outgoing president is Kurt Hagman. He's a County of San Bernardino supervisor. The incoming president is Cindy Allen, from the city council member from the city of Long Beach. The incoming first vice president is Ray Marquez from the city of Chino Hills. And then incoming second vice president is Jenny Crosswhite, so from the city of Santa Ana. So they were all introduced, and then another special event at their luncheon, an awards luncheon, and that was the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments received a Green Region Initiative Climate Action and Resource Conservation Award for their Fresh SGV program. So that was that had to do with food waste and food insecurity, the recycling and reuse. That sounds kind of gross sometimes when you talk about reusing food sometimes, but it was to reclaim a lot of foods that are not eaten and being able to distribute them to people in need. So that was neat. I was able to go up on stage with the San Gabriel Valley COG to receive their award, and also the city of Baldwin Park. They also were award winners for a sustainability award for their groundbreaking efforts to address homelessness. And I mentioned this Baldwin Park because the COG also was very instrumental in the two projects that they had, the Esperanza Villa and Serenity Homes transitional housing communities. So our SGV our COG, was very instrumental in helping them get those projects up and going. And Esperanza Villa was the first tiny home village in the San Gabriel Valley, offering 25 units for unhoused individuals, and Serenity Homes introduced 16 units tailored for families experiencing homeless. So that was kind of exciting and very local for us. Oh, Larry, I wanted to ask you, are you going to Noosa? You want to, when I'm finished talking, you can give us just a little promo, because you're not going to be here then for our next council meeting. because it's on the 20th, and our next council meeting is on the 20th. But there's so much going on, and also they had at the SCAG event they did have sessions from smart cities to smart region, advancing mobility strategies and technology innovations, strong foundations, housing solutions in the wake of disaster. They had student showcases. They had fostering a healthy local economy for all. Here, keynote address, Tucker Bryan, a poet and innovation keynote speaker. He was very good. The one, though, that it really stands out, the creating a regional legacy for the 2028 Summer Olympics and Paralympics, that was the one that was right at the very, very end. And a lot of us, when we talk about the 2028 Olympics, we go, oh, it's just like a beyond, like, a headache, and how are they going to be able to do it? Well, one of the panelists, I thought it was very interesting. He made me look at it a little differently. When LA had the Olympics twice before, once in 1932, and we were coming out of a depression that had many, 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 many challenges, and it might not have been the greatest of Olympics, but they made it happen even with all the horrendous challenges of the cost, the travel, the limited participation due to the economic hardship, lots of things, but they made it work. But in 1984, when we had the Olympics, it actually, they hosted the most successful and financially viable Olympics without relying heavily on public funding. It was primarily privately funded. I don't know if that's going to happen this time around, and it's looking really slim on the public funding of it. But they had, it was it was the most successful Olympics. So anything's possible. So at least got me to think about it in a more positive light.
And did you guys see that the Santa Anita Park is not going to be hosting
Yeah,
events?
they posted, we now have, Santa Anita will have the equestrian, I believe, activities, and then also the Rose Bowl, the Fairplex and Pomona, they will have cricket. And Long Beach has a whole bunch, and so there's going to be a lot of local activity that hopefully we can
Hopefully we get diners into Myrtle Avenue.
Yeah. We'll be able to capitalize on all those visitors. So with that, and I wanted to make sure to wish everybody, I don't need to look at my notes for that, Happy Mother's Day. And for all those mothers out there, we thank you and we love you. And whether you're here with us or we're just their fond memories. So I just can't believe how many different activities there are. The Modem Mixer that was the chamber, the Waterfest, as Edward talked about, the Jones, and they corrected us. Now it's either Sophia or Sophia. So that's debatable. Sandy says she still thinks it's Sophia, but it's Sophia or Sophia. The Kiwanis had a cornhole fundraiser on Saturday too, and then we had the home tour and just all sorts of things. And Foothill, I wanted to mention Foothill Unity is a part of and participates in the Letter Carrier Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive. That's this Saturday, May 10th. And place non-perishable food donations in a bag by your mailbox, and they will be delivered to the Foothill Unity Center and distributed to neighbors in need. So please keep that in mind. May 10th, put non-perishable food items next to your mailbox so those can be picked up. And I feel sorry for those poor even us standing in line to get pancakes. It's going to be 96 degrees on Saturday. Something crazy like that. So, but by the parade on the Thursday, I think it's supposed to be a high of 75. But for the pancake breakfast on Saturday, it's going to be a hot one. So keep cool. All right, and to wrap up our evening.
think Larry has something.
Oh, no, wait.
I saw you talking, I didn't know.
Okay, no problem. Sherry, you mind giving them an update on the awards?
For NUSA.
For NUSA?
Not at all. So
Thank you.
NUSA stands for Neighborhood USA. And each year, your MAP team gets to travel along with Larry Spicer, Mr. Larry Spicer. This is a conference that's held nationally, and it focuses on building and strengthening neighborhoods. There's presentations, there's professional development, and there are awards that will be considered and decided upon. And the city is up for 2 awards, one for the Neighborhood Treasure Program, and the next one is for the Yes Intern Program. So your team will be presenting, I believe, on May 21st.
Yes.
And we have one job to do.
Bring the bacon.
We're going to bring home the bacon.
That's
Yeah.
right.
In Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. So thank you very much.
All right,
Looking forward
great.
to it.
Thank you, Sherry.
Great, thank you. And I know Dylan's kids were involved in a musical this week in The Lion King, and also the kids at Santa Fe and Clifton, they performed at Clifton, the Addams Family Youth edition of the Addams Family musical. That occurred just recently. So we're a very, very, very busy community. And congratulations, I'm going to count on it, Larry. We're counting on you to bring home the awards then.
But we're
Okay.
going to bring back something, I
Yeah.
guarantee you.
Okay, all right. So moving on then to administrative reports, AR1, fiscal year 23-24, annual comprehensive financial report, otherwise known as the annual CAFR.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Shevlin and members of City Council. Speaking of bringing home the bacon, the item before you this evening is the 23-24 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or ACFR. Tonight, I'll provide a few high-level highlights as part of my presentation, and Ryan Domino, the audit partner from LSL, is also here to go over the audit with you this evening. Our auditors also provided 2 letters regarding this year's audit, and those, along with a copy of the ACFR and the presentation, are the hard copy documents that you have before you tonight. As you know, each year, the city undergoes an annual audit performed by a CPA firm. The audit includes a review of the city's procedures and adherence to policies. Auditors review the city's accounting records and financial transactions, and they also review the city's internal controls. When the audit is complete, we then prepare the ACFR. Based on the fiscal year 23-24 audit, I'm happy to report that the city received a clean audit. This is the highest audit result possible, and this means that our financial statements conform with all reporting requirements. The financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We did have one audit finding related to the data loss event that occurred in March of 2024, and Ryan will also mention that in his presentation as well. Our audit committee plays an important role in the audit process. The audit committee provides a forum for open discussion with the auditors and staff. And for 23-24, Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Kelly, Councilmember Jimenez, City Treasurer Janet Wall, along with staff from the City Manager's Office and Administrative Services, met with the auditors before the audit started, and then again at the conclusion of the audit to discuss any questions, concerns, or clarification on any audit-related items. I'd like to thank the committee members for your commitment to our audit practices. As a high-level overview, the ACFR has 3 main sections, and each section serves a specific purpose. There's an introductory section, a financial section, and a statistical section. I did want to note that there are 2 very helpful summary documents, which are the transmittal letter and the MD&A. They provide a high-level financial overview of the city at June 30, 2024. I also wanted to share that our ACFR meets the highest standards of financial reporting. We've received the Government Finance Officers Association's Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the past 30 years. I did want to note that the award program checklist includes over 500 criteria items. It's pretty stringent. And we'll be submitting for the award again for this year's report. I want to quickly review the financial condition of the city at June 30, 2024. 23-24 was a year of continued stability and modest revenue growth. The city ended the year with a positive net position of over $48 million, and total asset balances increased by a little over $14 million. The general fund closed the year with an ending fund balance of a little over $24 million, and several key revenue sources demonstrated growth, including property tax and TOT. Lastly, the enterprise and internal service funds net positions increased by over $2 million. I did want to mention that although the city's net position was positive, it did decrease by a little over $2 million compared to the prior year, and this was largely attributable to an increase in pension liabilities. However, as council is aware, the city's commitment to managing CalPERS costs remains a high priority. Some of the measures we've implemented in the past include creating a pension payoff policy, establishing a Section 115 trust, and funding annual contributions to the trust. In summary, Monrovia ended the year in a positive financial position. The City Council's commitment to prudence, diligence, strong stewardship, and sound financial practices has continued to move the city in a positive financial direction. And that concludes my part of the presentation. I'll now turn it over to Ryan Domino.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you tonight and kind of go over very briefly the results of the annual financial audit. So without too much further ado, we'll jump right in here. So as previously mentioned, we were engaged by the city to perform a financial statement audit for the year ended June 30, 2024. We conduct our audit in accordance not only with generally accepted auditing standards, which is the bare minimum that any auditor in any industry would have to follow, but also with government auditing standards, which is a much higher level of audit that needs to be done for local government. It requires us to not only check the numbers, but also check internal controls and as well as compliance with laws, regulations, grant and other debt items as well. So much more work goes into it. So just as a very high overview, we do break our audit into two segments. The first segment we refer to as interim. This happened back in July of 2024. And during that time, we examined internal controls. We provided feedback to management on what we identified in the policies and procedures and the controls. We also perform our risk assessment at this time. So it's in any organization, there's thousands of transactions that happen in any given year, so we can't test everything or the audit would still be ongoing probably. So we have to identify those areas with which to spend most of our time and focus. So once we identify those areas, we plan our responses and procedures to respond to those areas of risk. So what we did back in February to April of this new year, 2025, is when we did what everyone thinks of as the traditional audit testing. This is where we reviewed the account balances and the transactions to make sure that they exist, that they were recorded properly, that they were in compliance with whatever governing regulations might impact them, and any other procedures necessary for us to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence that the financial statements are properly stated. So as previously mentioned, we did render an unmodified auditor's opinion, and it is the highest and best opinion that we are allowed to render. Essentially, it means that the financial statements are accurate and reliable at June 30, 2024. Along with the financial statements, we do issue our two companion letters. So the first one is what we call our report on internal control and compliance. This is the one that's required by government auditing standards, and it's where we would disclose any sort of deficiencies in internal control that we've identified, as well as any non-compliance that we identified. So this year, as was previously mentioned, there was a fairly significant data loss. We did document that as our one finding, a material weakness in internal control. which was corrective actions have been taken by management. We don't expect that to be a recurring theme in the future. The other letter is basically just a written summary of this presentation. It would cover all of the stuff I previously mentioned, as well as a few other items that I would generally discuss, which is if we had disagreements with management regarding the application of accounting principles. So this year we had no significant changes in accounting principles. Everything was consistently applied in the same way as the prior year, so there was no issue on that. We had no difficulties conducting our audits. Management was very forthcoming in all of the requests that we made of them, gave us all the documentation we needed to conduct our audit in a timely manner, so that was not an issue at all. As far as estimates go, in every financial statement there's estimates. Primarily it's your pension and other post-employment benefits liabilities. So what we do is we verify that the underlying data that was provided to the actuaries and to CalPERS to come up with these liabilities, making sure that they received good data so they could come up with a good number. And so we had no issues with that when we tested the underlying data. Everything looked reasonable. And then finally, we did not identify any fraud, waste, or abuse, which is always a positive thing. We performed certain procedures to check to make sure none of these things are happening, and nothing was noted as part of those procedures, and also nothing was brought to our attention when we have our, quote, whistleblower conversations with people. That is my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you may have on the audit.
Do we have any questions? I did have a question of you, Dylan. Are you, since you brought up the data loss, can you just maybe fill in a few more of the details on that and where we stand on the status of that?
Yeah, for those listening, on March 13th, 2024, we came into work and the city uses a third party to provide data storage and backup for all city servers and equipment. On that day when we came into work, we learned that all of our financial software for almost 3 years had been wiped clean. During what's a normal procedure, a backup procedure, where our third-party administrator was basically moving data from one server to another, there was just some human errors made by a third party that resulted in us losing a lot of data. And certainly, I use this as a plug to give credit to the administrative services team, all the staff, to Ryan and his team who have worked considerably extra hours and taken extra time to complete the audit just to try to recreate mounds and mounds of data which was lost. So, it's been a very extensive effort to basically correct the issue. Our third party that we work with, we have a long-term relationship, goes back almost 10 years, Acorn Technologies. They've been a great partner to the city. This was really a first major mess up of theirs, but they've been working very closely with our office to not only help restore the data that was lost, but we're even processing a claim. We estimate the financial impact to the city close to $700,000, and we've been discussing a settlement amount, working with their insurance, working with them directly. And while final details are close to being determined, I don't yet have a report, but I do think we're very close. I think from my perspective, there's really two ways we looked at this. First, what is Acorn going to do now that they've messed up? How are they going to take care of us as their customer? And I think they've done everything we've asked of them. I think they've helped us regain what was lost. I think the last remaining question is, do they make us whole financially for all the hours and all the work? And that's really what we're waiting to settle, but I'm very optimistic about it. So I do hope that at a future meeting, the city council will be able to approve a settlement amount. We do have until March of 2026 to consider legal recourse should that need ever arise, but I don't think it's going to get anywhere close to that.
Great.
So that's the update I have.
Thank you very much. And thank you, staff. Great presentation. And Chelsea, I will ask you. It says receive and file, but it says recommended. Do we need to make a formal motion on that for receive and file?
Yes, I would recommend making a formal motion on that.
Okay, great. Then if we don't have any further questions for our awesome staff here, Do we have a motion to receive and file?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to receive and file.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we take a roll call vote?
Councilmembers Belton.
Yes.
Jimenez.
Yes.
Schweitzer.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dr. Kelly.
Yes.
And Mayor Sheplin.
Yes, thank you very much. And I did want to make sure that I got Chelsea in
Thank
there
you,
at
Ryan.
least,
Thank you. Great.
at the end.
Buffy.
For many of you that noticed that Mr. Steele was not here this evening, we do have Chelsea Strauss from the firm and filling in, and you've done an awesome job, and thank you for helping us out this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it.
Okay, we don't have any further administrative reports. There's no further public input or items pulled from the consent calendar. Our next scheduled meeting is the regular meeting of the Monrovia City Council for Tuesday, May 20th. And I already said, we're going to miss you, Larry. You're going to be off at the news conference. But May 20th, at 7:30 PM here in these chambers. And we are adjourning this evening in memory of Mary Bourne, longtime resident and first African-American bus driver for the Monrovia Unified School District. So our hearts and prayers go out to the Bourne family, and just to be with them at this time of great loss. And with that, then, thank you for joining us this evening. It's always nice. Thank you for hanging in there for the entire meeting. We like having people out in the audience, so thank you very much and good evening. Oh, it's 10:17. We're adjourned.